My sister stole my wedding venue for her own big day, so I sent her fiancé the messages she'd been sending to her backup plan. It started when I showed Bree the rustic barn I'd booked for my October wedding. 200 guests, string lights, the works. I'd put down a $5,000 non-refundable deposit 14 months in advance. She gushed about how perfect it was, how romantic, how she wished she'd thought of it first. 3 weeks later, she announced her engagement. To Clayton, a guy she'd been dating for 6 months. Mom threw her an impromptu party that weekend. I congratulated her, hugged Clayton, and asked about their plans. "Oh, we're thinking next fall," Bree said casually. "Plenty of time to plan." My wedding was in 7 months. The venue called me 2 days later. "We have a situation," the coordinator said carefully. "Your sister contacted us. She's offering double your deposit to move your date and take October 12th. My blood went cold. "She can't do that. I have a contract." "She claims there's been a family emergency, that you agreed to switch dates." A pause. "Did you?" "Absolutely not." But the damage was done. Bree had already told our entire family I was being selfish, that she and Clayton needed to marry quickly for insurance reasons, that I was ruining her chance at happiness over a date. When I called her, she was crying. "I thought you'd understand. You're my sister. Can't you just pick a different month? I've sent invitations, made deposits. My dress is being altered." "Well, I've already told Clayton's family October 12th. I can't take it back now." That's when I noticed something odd. Bree kept texting during our call, giggling at her phone. I hung up and opened Instagram. She'd posted a photo of the barn. My barn. Caption: "Can't wait to marry my soulmate here." The comments were flooded with congratulations. No one mentioned I was supposed to get married there first. I spent that night unable to sleep. Something felt wrong. Bree had always been competitive, but this was different. The next morning, I did something I'm not proud of. I grabbed her phone while she was in the shower at Mom's house. Her passcode was still her birthday. The messages to Damien went back 4 months, before her engagement. "Can't wait until I'm free of this. Clayton's loaded. Just need to secure the ring first. You're my real future. He's just the bank account." Hundreds of messages, photos, plans for after the wedding. She was using Clayton for money while planning a life with someone else. The wedding was just a performance, a way to access his family's wealth before the inevitable divorce she'd already mapped out with her lawyer friend. I took screenshots. Every single one. That evening, I created a burner email and sent everything to Clayton. No message, just the truth. Then I waited. Clayton called off the engagement 3 days later, publicly, on Facebook, with receipts. The family exploded. Bree claimed I'd fabricated everything, that I was jealous and vindictive. Mom called me crying. Dad said I'd destroyed our family over a venue. She was scamming him, I said. That was between them. Mom snapped. You had no right. But here's what nobody knew. Clayton's father owned the company that employed my dad. And Clayton's mother sat on the board of the charity where Mom volunteered. And Clayton's sister was the family lawyer who'd handled my grandmother's estate. By revealing Bree's plan, I'd just nuked every connection our family had to the most powerful network in our town. The fallout started immediately. Dad got a meeting request from HR. Mom's charity position was reevaluated, and the family lawyer sent a formal letter about the estate distribution. Then yesterday, Bree showed up at my apartment. Her eyes were different, cold. "You think you won?" she said quietly. She dropped a folder on my table. Inside were documents I'd never seen, property deeds, bank statements, all in my name. "Damien works in forensic accounting," she said. "Guess what we've been building?" My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. My signature on loan applications I'd never filled out. Credit cards opened in my name. A mortgage on a property in Nevada I'd never heard of. Tax documents showing income I'd never earned. "That's identity theft," I whispered. Bree smiled. "Prove it. Those are your signatures, your social security number, your driver's license information." She leaned against my counter like she owned the place. "Damien's very talented. He spent 6 months learning every detail about you, how you sign your name, your banking habits, even the slight slant in your handwriting when you're tired." "Why?" "Insurance," she said simply. "I knew you'd interfere eventually, you always do, so we prepared." I looked at the dates. The first document was from 8 months ago, before her engagement to Clayton, before any of this started. "You planned this from the beginning." "I planned for every possibility." She picked up one of the documents. "Right now, you owe $847,000 in outstanding debt. The IRS has questions about unreported income, and there's an active investigation into mortgage fraud tied to that Nevada property." She paused. Unless what? "Unless you fix this. Call Clayton. Tell him you made everything up, that you doctored those messages because you were jealous. Apologize publicly. Convince him to take me back." I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. "You're insane. Even if I wanted to, he'd never believe me now." "Then you better be very convincing." Bree headed for the door. "You have 48 hours. After that, Damien files the evidence with the authorities. And you?" She smiled over her shoulder. "You'll spend the next decade in prison for fraud." The door closed. I stood there, staring at the documents spread across my table. My entire life, weaponized against me. I called my fiancé first. "We need to talk." Trevor arrived within the hour. I showed him everything. The documents. Bree's threat. All of it. "This is blackmail," he said, reading through the pages. "We call the police." "With what proof?" "These look real." "She's right. Those are perfect forgeries of my signature." "Then we get a lawyer." With what money? Our wedding budget is maxed out. We've put down deposits on everything. I felt my throat tighten. Trevor, this could destroy us. He pulled me close. Then we fight back. But fighting required resources we didn't have. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about how Bree had orchestrated everything. The engagement to Clayton wasn't about love or money. It was bait. She knew I'd investigate, knew I'd find the messages, knew I'd expose her. She wanted me to. The next morning, I drove to Clayton's office. His assistant tried to stop me, but I pushed past. I need 5 minutes, I said. Clayton looked up from his desk. His face was hard. You've got 3. Bree's blackmailing me. I laid out the documents, explained everything. He listened without interrupting. Why should I believe you? He asked when I finished. You already proved you'll do anything to hurt her. I didn't hurt her. I saved you. I met his eyes. But I need you to know something. This was her plan all along. The engagement, the venue theft, my reaction. She orchestrated everything. To what end? To create leverage. She knew I'd expose her. She wanted me to. Now she has me trapped, and she's using it to force me to recant. To make you believe I fabricated everything. Clayton was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me? Help. You're a lawyer. Your family has resources. I need to know if these documents would hold up. He took the folder. I'll have my forensic team look at them, but I'm not promising anything. That's all I'm asking. I left his office with a tiny spark of hope. 2 days later, Clayton called. We need to meet. Bring your fiancé. We met at his family's law firm. Clayton sat across from us, his expression unreadable. My team analyzed the documents. They're good, professionally done, but they found something. He slid a report across the table. The signatures are too perfect. When you sign your name, there are natural variations. Micro tremors, pressure points. These signatures are identical, down to the pixel. Meaning they were created digitally, probably scanned from real signatures you made, then copied and pasted onto the documents. It's sophisticated, but it's detectable. Trevor grabbed my hand. So they're fake. Provably fake, Clayton confirmed. But here's the problem. The accounts exist. The loans exist. Someone actually executed these transactions using your sister's information. The forgeries are just the paper trail. My stomach dropped. So I'm still liable? Potentially. Unless we can prove who actually created the accounts. Clayton leaned forward. I'm going to ask you something, and I need complete honesty. Do you want revenge, or do you want this to go away? I want my life back. Then we do this carefully, quietly. My family has certain resources. We can make these accounts disappear. Clean up your credit. Make it like none of this ever existed. In exchange for what? In exchange for you walking away. No police reports, no charges against your sister, no public exposure. I felt Trevor tense beside me. That's not justice. No, Clayton agreed. It's survival. Because if this goes public, even if your sister goes to jail, the damage to your reputation will be permanent. Financial institutions will blacklist you. Employers will question you. Your wedding? He shook his head. Postponed at minimum, canceled at worst. She can't get away with this, I said. She already has. Clayton's voice was cold. The question is whether you're willing to let her take you down with her. I thought about my wedding, my future with Trevor, the life we'd been planning. What about Bree? She just wins? She thinks she's won. That's different. Something dark flickered across Clayton's face. You exposed her. My family knows what she is now. Trust me when I say, that has consequences. I didn't ask what he meant. 3 days later, every fraudulent account in my name was closed. The debt vanished. My credit report showed no trace of the identity theft. It was like Bree's blackmail had never existed, except I knew it had. Bree called that evening. I'm impressed. I didn't think you'd go running to Clayton. Her voice was tight. But it doesn't matter. You still ruined everything. You ruined it yourself. No, I had a plan. A good one. And you destroyed it because you're petty and jealous. I'm neither of those things. Then what are you? Done. I hung up. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next week, Bree's apartment was raided by the FBI. Turns out, Damien wasn't just a forensic accountant. He was under investigation for running a massive identity theft ring. And Bree, she was his accomplice. The documents she'd shown me weren't just about blackmailing me. They were evidence of a much larger operation. When Clayton's team had analyzed the forgeries, they'd found digital fingerprints linking them to Damien's other crimes. Clayton's family had contacts in federal law enforcement. They'd turned over everything. Bree called me from jail hysterical. You did this. You set me up. I didn't set you up. You set yourself up when you decided to commit federal crimes. I need bail money. I need a lawyer. Mom and Dad won't help me. That's not my problem. Please, I'm your sister. You stopped being my sister when you tried to destroy my life. I hung up. The trial took 6 months. Bree and Damien were both convicted. Identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy. Bree got 8 years. Damien got 12. My parents blamed me, said I should have protected her, should have been the bigger person. Dad actually said, she's family. You don't send family to prison. She sent herself to prison, I replied. I just didn't stop her. We haven't spoken since. My wedding happened in November. Different venue, smaller guest list. Just the people who actually mattered. Clayton came, surprisingly. I wanted to see you happy, he said. After everything, thank you for your help. I didn't do it for you. He looked away. I did it because your sister taught me something important. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Trevor and I honeymooned in Iceland. When we got back, there was a letter waiting from Bree. I almost threw it away. But curiosity got the better of me. The letter was long, rambling, full of justifications and excuses. But one paragraph stood out. You always had everything. Mom and Dad's approval, perfect grades, the perfect fiancé. I was always second, always less. The wedding venue was supposed to be mine, just one thing that was mine first. But you couldn't even let me have that. I read it 3 times, then I burned it. Because here's what Bree never understood. I didn't have everything. I worked for everything. While she was partying, I was studying. While she was dating guys for their money, I was building a real relationship. While she was scheming, I was planning. She thought life was something you took from other people. I knew it was something you built yourself. 3 years passed. Trevor and I bought a house, started talking about kids, built a quiet, happy life. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Bree was up for early release. Good behavior, apparently. I didn't think much about it until she showed up at my door. She looked different, thinner, older. Her eyes had lost that calculating gleam. I know you don't want to see me, she said, but I needed to say something in person. I'm not interested in apologies. It's not an apology, not really. She took a breath. I destroyed my life trying to compete with you. And the worst part? You weren't even competing. You were just living. I didn't see that until it was too late. What do you want, Bree? Nothing. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. You didn't win. I lost. There's a difference. She turned to leave. Wait, she stopped. What are you going to do now? I asked. Figure out who I am when I'm not trying to be better than you. She smiled, sad and small. If I can. I watched her walk away. Part of me felt satisfied, vindicated. But another part, a small part, felt something else. Not quite pity, not quite sympathy. Just awareness that we'd both been trapped in a game neither of us had chosen to play. 2 years later, I was pregnant with our first child when I got a text from an unknown number. Congratulations! She's beautiful. Followed by a photo. I was walking out of my OBGYN appointment, hand on my belly. My blood ran cold. Was Bree stalking me? Then another message. Don't worry, I'm not here to cause problems. Just wanted you to see something. An attachment. A photo of Bree. She was clean, sober, working at what looked like a community center. She was teaching a class. The sign behind her read, Financial Literacy for Women, Breaking Cycles. The text continued. She's been clean for 16 months. Works with women leaving abusive relationships. Teaches them how to rebuild their credit. How to spot financial abuse, how to protect themselves. A pause in the messages. She talks about you sometimes, about how she almost became everything she now helps women escape from. Who is this? I typed back. Her parole officer. She doesn't know I'm contacting you, but I thought you should know. She's doing the work, real work. I stared at the phone for a long time, then I saved the number. Thanks for letting me know. I didn't reach out to Bree, but I didn't delete the photo either. Maybe someday, maybe not. That wasn't really the point. The point was that we'd both survived. We'd both changed. And we'd both learned that the only person you can really compete with is yourself. My daughter was born in April. We named her Grace. Because if there's anything I learned from everything with Bree, it's that grace isn't about what people deserve. It's about what we choose to give. But the story doesn't end there. Because life never ties up that neatly. Not really. 6 months after Grace was born, I was at the grocery store when I saw her. Bree. She was in the produce section comparing apples. She looked good, healthy. Her hair was different, shorter. She was wearing scrubs, like she'd just come from work. Our eyes met. She froze. I could see her calculating whether to run or stay. I made the decision for both of us. I pushed my cart forward. Hi, I said. Hi. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. The apples are better on the bottom, I said, pointing. Less bruised. She laughed, short and surprised. Thanks. We stood there for a moment. 2 sisters who'd destroyed each other, now standing in a grocery store like normal people. I heard you're doing well, I said. Teaching classes. Her face went red. My parole officer contacted you. I told her not to. I'm glad she did. Bree looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. I'm not looking for forgiveness or a relationship. I just want you to know I'm trying to be different. I can see that. Your daughter, Grace, she's beautiful. You've seen her? No. Mom posts about her sometimes, on Facebook. I'm not allowed to contact family directly, but I can see her posts. I hadn't known Mom was posting about Grace. We'd spoken maybe 3 times since Grace was born. Stilted, awkward conversations where neither of us mentioned Bree. Mom hasn't told me she's posting. She probably doesn't want you to know I'm watching, but I wanted, Bree's voice cracked. I wanted to see what I gave up, what I could have had if I'd been a better person. Something in my chest loosened, just a fraction. Do you want to meet her? Someday, I mean. When your parole officer says it's okay. Bree's eyes went wide. You'd let me do that? I'd think about it. If you keep doing the work. Why? Because she should know her aunt. The real one. Not the person you were, but the person you're becoming. Bree started crying right there in the produce section. I don't deserve that. Probably not. But Grace deserves to have family who care about her. And maybe, I took a breath, maybe we both deserve a second chance at being sisters. We didn't hug. We weren't there yet. But we exchanged numbers. Real ones this time. Don't make me regret this, I said. I won't. I promise. I pushed my cart toward the checkout, and Bree went back to her apples. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't even really an ending. It was just a moment. A possibility. a crack in the wall we'd built between us. Whether anything would grow there remained to be seen, but for the first time in years, I felt something other than anger when I thought about my sister. I felt hope. 3 months later, Bree's parole officer approved supervised visits. We met at a park. Bree brought a gift for Grace, a stuffed rabbit she'd made in one of her rehabilitation classes. It was a little lopsided, but Grace loved it immediately. "She's perfect," Bree whispered, watching Grace clutch the rabbit. "She's teething and hasn't slept through the night in 2 weeks," I said honestly. "But yeah, she's perfect." We sat on a bench while Grace played on a blanket between us. "I've been seeing a therapist," Bree said suddenly, "for the past year. Court mandated at first, but now I go on my own. That's good. She says I have," Bree paused like the words were hard, "narcissistic tendencies and deep-rooted insecurity from always comparing myself to you. Mom and Dad didn't help." "No, they didn't." Bree picked at her nail polish. "Remember how they used to make us compete? For everything? Grades, boys, even Christmas presents. Who got the better gift meant who was the better daughter that year. I'd forgotten about that. Or maybe I'd tried to forget. I remember. I thought if I could just win once, just beat you at something important, then maybe I'd feel," she shrugged. "I don't know. Whole, I guess." "Did it work?" "No, it just made everything worse." She looked at me. "I'm sorry for all of it. The venue, Clayton, the identity theft, trying to destroy your life because I couldn't handle my own." I watched Grace grab at a dandelion, her tiny fingers closing around the stem. "I'm sorry too." "For what?" "You didn't do anything wrong. For not seeing how much you were struggling. For not being the sister you needed. That wasn't your job." "Maybe not. But we were sisters. We should have been on the same team." Bree smiled, sad and small. "We can't go back." "No. But we can go forward." It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. Moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. Like the time Bree mentioned she was thinking about going back to school, and my first instinct was to list all the reasons it might not work out. Old habits, trying to keep her small so I could feel big. I caught myself, apologized, told her I thought school was a great idea. She applied to community college the next week, or the time I invited her to Grace's first birthday party, and she showed up with a gift that was clearly more expensive than she could afford, trying to prove something. I pulled her aside, gently told her that Grace didn't need expensive toys. She needed an aunt who was present and stable. Bree returned the toy the next day and got Grace a book instead. We were learning, both of us, how to be sisters without the competition, how to exist in each other's lives without the toxicity. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Mom and Dad never quite understood. They kept waiting for me to come to my senses and cut Bree off completely. When I didn't, they started pulling away from both of us. Dad still blamed me for the job issues he'd had after Clayton's family cut ties. Mom still thought I should have handled everything privately, kept it in the family. "You aired our dirty laundry," she said during one tense phone call. "Everyone knows now. About Bree. About us." "Good," I said. "Maybe it needed to be aired." She hung up on me. "Trevor wasn't sure about the reconciliation at first. She tried to frame you for federal crimes," he pointed out. "That's not something you just get over." "I'm not getting over it. I'm moving through it." "What's the difference?" "Getting over it means pretending it never happened. Moving through it means acknowledging it happened and choosing what comes next." He thought about that. "Okay, but if she hurts you again, then I'll deal with it. But I can't live my whole life afraid of what she might do. That's no way to live." Grace turned 2, then 3. Bree came to every birthday party, every Christmas. She became a constant, steady presence. Not the sister I'd had growing up, but something better, something earned. She finished her associate's degree, got a job at a nonprofit that helped formerly incarcerated women rebuild their lives. She was good at it, really good. She understood their struggles in a way that people who hadn't lived it never could. "I think I found my purpose," she told me one day. We were having coffee while Grace was at preschool, helping other women not make the mistakes I made. "You're doing important work. I'm doing the work I should have done years ago. On myself, I mean." She stirred her coffee. "My therapist says I'm finally learning to measure success by my own standards, instead of comparing myself to everyone else." "How's that going?" "Hard, but better." She smiled. "I celebrated 6 months at my job yesterday. In the past, I would have immediately thought about how you've had your job for 5 years, how I'm still behind. But this time, I just celebrated the 6 months. Because 6 months is an accomplishment for me, regardless of what anyone else is doing. I'm proud of you." Her eyes got misty. "That means a lot. We'd rebuilt something. Not what we'd lost, because that was gone forever, but something new, something that felt more honest." Then Mom got sick. The call came from Dad. "Your mother has cancer, stage 3. She starts treatment next week. I'll be there. Will you?" His voice was bitter. "You've barely spoken to us in 5 years. She's my mother. Of course I'll be there." Bree and I went together. Mom's face when she saw us walk in side by side was complicated. Surprise, relief, maybe a little fear. "Both of you came," she said weakly. "Of course we did," I said. We sat on either side of her hospital bed. Bree took her left hand. I took her right. "We're here, Mom," Bree said softly. "Whatever you need." Mom started crying. "I'm so sorry for all of it. For pitting you against each other. For not protecting you. For caring more about what people thought than what you needed. Mom, no, let me say this." She looked at both of us. I was a terrible mother. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I did it anyway because that's how I was raised. And I told myself you'd both be fine, that the competition would make you stronger. It almost destroyed us, I said quietly. I know, and I have to live with that. She squeezed our hands, but seeing you two together now, working through it, being there for each other, that's not because of me, that's despite me. Bree and I looked at each other across the hospital bed. We almost didn't make it, Bree said. It was really close, but we did, I added. And we're going to be here for you, both of us. Mom's treatment was brutal. 6 months of chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. Bree and I split the caregiving duties. I handled weekdays. Bree handled weekends. Dad tried to help, but he was falling apart. After 40 years of marriage, he couldn't imagine life without Mom. I don't know how to do this, he admitted one night. We were all at the hospital. Mom was sleeping. I don't know how to be strong for her. Then don't be strong, Bree said. Be present. That's all she needs. It was strange, seeing Dad vulnerable. He'd always been this distant, authoritative figure. Now he was just a scared man watching his wife fight for her life. I'm sorry, he said suddenly, to both of you, for how I raised you, for the things I said when he couldn't finish. We know, I said, and we're here anyway. Mom survived. After 8 months of hell, she went into remission. When the doctor gave us the news, Bree and I grabbed each other and sobbed. Years of baggage, and in that moment, we were just two sisters grateful their mother was going to live. The experience changed things. Mom started family therapy with Dad. She called to apologize, really apologize, for specific things she'd done. She acknowledged the damage, took responsibility. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. Dad took early retirement, spent his time volunteering and trying to rebuild his relationship with both of us. I missed so much, he said once. Your whole lives, I was working or worried about status, and I missed the actual important things. Grace turned 5. She adored her Aunt Bree, didn't know the complicated history, just knew that Aunt Bree taught her how to paint and always remembered her favorite snacks. Why don't Grandma and Grandpa like Aunt Bree? She asked once. They do like her, I said carefully. It's complicated. Why? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that people can hurt each other and still love each other? That families are messy and healing takes time? Because grown-ups make mistakes sometimes. But we're working on it. Good. I love Aunt Bree. Me too, baby. Bree met someone. His name was Owen. He worked at the nonprofit with her. He knew her whole story and loved her anyway. He sees me, she told me. Not who I was. Not who I'm trying to be. Just me, right now. And he loves that person. That's beautiful. I never thought I'd have this. A real relationship. One that's not based on what I can get from someone. They got engaged a year later. Small ceremony. Just close friends and family. Bree asked me to be her maid of honor. I cried when she asked. Are you sure? You're my sister. Who else would I ask? The wedding was simple. Beautiful. Nothing like the elaborate show she'd planned with Clayton. This was real. Honest. Two people who'd both survived hard things, choosing each other. When Bree walked down the aisle, I was crying. So was Mom. So was Dad. We were a family, broken and rebuilt. Scarred, but healing. At the reception, Bree pulled me aside. Thank you. For what? For not giving up on me. Even when you should have. Even when I gave you every reason to. She hugged me tight. You saved my life. You know that, right? You saved your own life. I just didn't stop you from doing it. Same thing. Not even close. She laughed. Okay, fine. But still, thank you. I watched her dance with Owen. Watched her laugh. Really laugh. Not the calculated laugh she used to use to manipulate people. Real joy. She'd found herself. The real Bree. The one who'd been buried under layers of insecurity and competition. I was seeing her for the first time, and she was wonderful. Life moved forward. Trevor got promoted. I went back to work part-time. We had a second child, a boy, named him after Trevor's father. Bree and Owen bought a house 3 streets over. Grace was thrilled to have her aunt so close. We spent holidays together, had Sunday dinners, became the family we should have been all along. Mom and Dad slowly integrated back into our lives. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension, old wounds that ached in bad weather. But we were trying, all of us. One evening, Bree and I were sitting on my porch. Kids were playing in the yard. Owen and Trevor were grilling. Mom and Dad were arguing good-naturedly about how to make potato salad. Can I tell you something? Bree said. Always. Sometimes I think about that night, when I came to your apartment with those fake documents. And I wonder what would have happened if Clayton hadn't helped you. I don't know. I think I would have destroyed you. Completely. And then I would have hated myself for it. But I still would have done it. She was quiet for a moment. I was that broken. But you're not anymore. No. But I could be again. That's what scares me. Like it's just waiting under the surface. You think I don't worry about that too? I asked. That I'll turn back into the person who was so desperate to win that I couldn't see my own sister drowning. You were never that person. Yes, I was. I was so focused on being successful, being perfect, that I never stopped to see how much you were hurting. I knew Mom and Dad compared us. I knew it was hurting you, but I liked winning, so I didn't say anything. That's not the same as what I did. Maybe not. But it wasn't innocent either. We watched our families, the life we'd built. We can't go back, Bree said. No, but we can keep going forward. Together. She reached over and took my hand. Together. Years passed. Grace graduated elementary school, started middle school, Our son started kindergarten. Bree and Owen had a daughter, named her Hope. When Bree told me the name, I understood. Hope for the future she was building. Hope for breaking the cycle. Hope for who she was becoming. Mom's cancer came back. We fought it again. This time we were all there. All of us. Together. She survived again. I'm going to outlive all of you out of pure stubbornness, she joked. We believed her. Dad started a foundation for families affected by toxic competition and narcissistic parenting. I want to help other families not make our mistakes, he said. It was his way of making amends. We supported him. On Grace's 13th birthday, she asked me about the story, the real story. I heard Grandma and Grandpa talking, she said, about how you and Aunt Bree used to hate each other. Is that true? Trevor and I looked at each other. We'd known this conversation was coming. Yes, I said. It's true. What happened? I told her. Not all of it. She was 13, not 30. But enough. The competition, the wedding venue, the betrayal, the identity theft, the prison time, the reconciliation. We hurt each other, I finished, really badly, and we almost never recovered. But we chose to try, and that made all the difference. Were you scared? To let her back in? Terrified. Then why did you do it? Because she's my sister, and people can change. Not always, but sometimes. And when they do, they deserve a chance to show it. Grace thought about this. I'm glad you gave her a chance. Aunt Bree is awesome. She is now, but it took a lot of work, from both of us. I won't ever let anyone make me compete with my cousin, Grace said firmly. When Hope and I are older, we're going to be friends. Real friends. Good. That's exactly how it should be. I watched Grace run off to find Hope. They were playing with dolls in the backyard. No competition, no comparison, just two cousins who loved each other. Bree caught my eye. She was watching them too. We smiled at each other. This was what we'd broken the cycle for, so the next generation wouldn't carry our scars. Life continued. We had good days and bad days, moments of friction when old patterns tried to emerge, but we'd built something strong enough to weather it. We'd built trust, real trust, the kind that comes from surviving the worst and choosing each other anyway. On my 40th birthday, Bree gave me a gift, a photo album. Inside were pictures spanning our whole lives. The early years when we were still innocent, the middle years when we barely spoke, the later years when we rebuilt, the now years when we were thriving. The last page had a single photo, Bree and me, arms around each other, both of us laughing. Below it, she'd written, "We lost years, we lost innocence, we lost the easy love of childhood, but we found something better. We found the hard love of choice, and that's worth everything." I hugged her, hard. I love you too. It wasn't the ending I'd imagined when this all started. When Bree tried to steal my wedding venue, when she framed me for identity theft, when she went to prison, I'd imagined revenge, I'd imagined distance, I'd imagined a life where she didn't exist. But this was better than revenge. This was redemption, for both of us. We'd both been broken, we'd both been toxic, and we'd both done the work to become something better. Together, we'd become the sisters we were always meant to be. The wedding venue where all this started? It burned down 3 years after my original wedding date. Insurance fraud, they said. The owner was in deep debt. I read about it in the paper and felt nothing. That place, that date, that version of myself, it all felt like another lifetime. Because it was. I wasn't the woman who'd fought over a venue anymore. I was the woman who'd learned that some battles aren't worth winning, that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what really matters. And what really mattered was sitting in my living room right now. Trevor reading to our kids, Bree and Owen laughing over wine, Mom and Dad playing cards at the kitchen table. This was my victory. Not a perfect wedding in a rustic barn, but an imperfect, beautiful life built on honesty and second chances. Bree caught me staring and raised her wine glass. I raised mine back. We didn't need words. We both knew what we were toasting to survival, to redemption, to the long, hard road that had brought us here, and to every choice we'd made along the way that led us to this moment, together, finally together. My parents canceled my wedding to pay for my sister's 3rd divorce, so I eloped and didn't tell them. The call came while I was picking up my dress for final alterations. Mom's voice had that familiar edge, the one that meant Tessa had screwed up again, and somehow it was my problem. "Sweetheart, we need to discuss the wedding budget." I stood in the bridal shop, holding my dream dress, watching the seamstress pin the hem. 3 weeks until my wedding. 200 guests confirmed, venue paid for, flowers ordered. What about it? I asked, though I already knew. Tessa's lawyer needs another $60,000. Her ex-husband is fighting for the vacation house, and if she loses it, she'll have nowhere to live with the kids. Tessa, 28 years old. 3rd marriage imploding spectacularly. Each divorce more expensive than the last. Each time, Mom and Dad acted like funding her disasters was their sacred duty. "So you're postponing my wedding? Just temporarily. Maybe next spring. You understand? Tessa's in crisis mode." I understood perfectly. Tessa's chaos always took priority. When I graduated summa cum laude, they missed my ceremony for her 2nd wedding. When I got promoted to senior analyst, they couldn't celebrate because Tessa was having husband number 2 arrested for domestic violence that turned out to be fabricated. "The deposits are non-refundable, Mom. We'll lose everything. We'll figure something out later. Family comes first." After hanging up, I stared at myself in the 3-way mirror. My fiancé Camden appeared behind me, reading my expression. "They canceled it, didn't they?" I nodded, fighting tears. What if we didn't need their permission? He said quietly. The next morning, we drove to the courthouse. Camden wore his navy suit. I wore a simple ivory dress from my closet, the one I'd bought for our engagement party. The ceremony lasted 12 minutes and cost $42. We spent our honeymoon weekend at his parents' lake house. His family threw us an impromptu reception with grocery store cake and string lights. It was more beautiful than anything my parents would have planned. For 3 months, we said nothing. Mom called weekly with Tessa updates. The custody battle, her new boyfriend Vincent, her plans to move back into their basement. I listened and made supportive sounds. Then the call I'd been dreading came. Wonderful news, Mom chirped. Tessa's divorce is finalized. She got the house and primary custody. We can start planning your wedding again. I'm thinking June would be perfect. That's great news about Tessa, I said calmly. Also, Camden and I got married 14 weeks ago. Dead silence. You what? Courthouse ceremony. Very lovely. His parents were witnesses. You got married without your family? Her voice turned shrill. You canceled my wedding to pay Tessa's legal bills. I found an alternative solution. How could you do this to us? We're your parents, and I'm your daughter. But apparently, funding Tessa's disasters matters more than my happiness. That's when I heard Dad grab the phone in the background. What he said next made me realize I'd severely underestimated how far they'd go to maintain control. Fine. Dad's voice was ice cold. Since you want to make adult decisions without consulting your family, you can handle your student loans alone too. Hope your new husband can afford the $400,000 you still owe. My stomach dropped. They'd been paying my graduate school loans for 2 years, something they'd offered when I started my MBA program. I'd never asked for their help, but they'd insisted. Focus on your studies, Mom had said. We'll handle the financial stress. Now I understood why. You're cutting me off financially because I got married? You cut us off emotionally first, Mom chimed in. Actions have consequences. You canceled my wedding. We postponed it, Dad corrected, for a family emergency. Instead of showing maturity and patience, you threw a tantrum. A tantrum. $400,000 in educational debt was my punishment for having a tantrum. Camden appeared beside me, seeing my face go pale. I put the call on speaker. This is about control, I said into the phone. You've used money to manipulate me my entire adult life. We've supported you. Mom's voice cracked with fake hurt. Paid for your car, your apartment down payment, your education. And this is how you repay us? By getting married? By excluding us from the most important day of your life. Camden stepped closer to the phone. With respect, Mrs. Morrison, you excluded yourselves when you chose to fund another family member's legal problems instead of honoring your commitment to your daughter's wedding. Silence stretched for a full minute. Then Dad's voice returned, colder than before. Who is this boy thinking he can speak to us about family commitments? This is your son-in-law, Camden replied evenly. And I'm the person who watched your daughter cry herself to sleep for 3 nights after you canceled her wedding. Well, son-in-law, Dad spat the words like poison. I hope you're prepared to support her completely. Because as of today, she's not getting another cent from us. Not for loans, not for emergencies, not for anything. You wanted to marry her so badly, she's your problem now. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling like someone had just pulled the financial rug out from under my entire future. Camden wrapped his arms around me. We'll figure this out, he whispered. But I was already doing the math. $400,000 in student loans at 6.8% interest. My current salary could barely cover minimum payments. We'd planned to buy a house next year, have kids eventually. All of that just evaporated. 3 days later, the registered letter arrived. I opened it with shaking hands while Camden read over my shoulder. It was from my parents' attorney, a detailed document explaining that all financial support would cease immediately. Furthermore, I was being removed as beneficiary from their life insurance policies, their will, and my grandfather's trust fund that I was supposed to inherit at 30. The trust fund. I'd forgotten about that. Grandpa Morrison had left money for his grandchildren's futures. $200,000 for each of us when we turned 30. Tessa had already blown through hers on her first divorce. I was 26, 4 years away from financial independence. Now it was gone, but the letter wasn't finished. There was a second page that made my blood run cold. In light of recent events and our daughter's demonstrated poor judgment, we have also contacted her employer to express concerns about her emotional stability and decision-making capabilities. As parents, we feel obligated to ensure her professional colleagues are aware of her current mental state. They'd called my boss. I grabbed my phone and dialed my manager, Rhonda, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, it's me. Did my parents call you? Rhonda's sigh told me everything. They did. Yesterday morning, they're concerned about you. What exactly did they say? That you'd been acting erratically, making impulsive decisions. They mentioned you'd gotten married suddenly and were worried about your judgment affecting your work performance. My career. They were trying to destroy my career. Rhonda, I got married 3 months ago. I haven't told anyone because it's personal, but there's nothing erratic about it. My parents are upset because they canceled my original wedding and I found an alternative solution. Another pause. Look, I've worked with you for 4 years. You're one of our most reliable analysts. But your parents seemed genuinely worried. They suggested you might benefit from some time off to sort through personal issues. Time off. Unpaid leave, which would make paying those student loans even more impossible. I'm not taking time off. I'm fine. This is retaliation because I got married without their permission. Okay, but if you need support or counseling resources, HR has programs available. After hanging up, I sat on our couch, staring at the letter. Camden found me there an hour later. They called my work, I said numbly. They're trying to get me fired. He read the letter, his jaw tightening with each line. This is harassment, he said finally. It's my family. No, family doesn't destroy your life because you made a choice they didn't like. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the pattern, how they'd controlled every major decision in my adult life with money. College choice, they'd pay tuition, but only for business programs, not the art degree I wanted. Apartment location, they'd help with the down payment, but only in neighborhoods they approved. Career path, they'd funded my MBA, but expected me to work at companies they respected. I'd thought their support came from love. Now I saw it was about control. And the moment I stepped outside their control, they scorched the earth. Over breakfast, Camden made a suggestion that changed everything. What if we sued them? I nearly choked on my coffee. Sue my own parents. Think about it. They committed to paying for your wedding, then backed out. You lost deposits because of their broken promise. Now they're retaliating by sabotaging your employment and financial stability. That's gotta be illegal somehow. Camden, they're my parents. They're people who are actively trying to ruin your life. I wanted to argue but couldn't find the words, because he was right. That afternoon, I did something I never thought I'd do. I called a lawyer. Janet Fitzgerald specialized in family law and elder abuse, but she listened to my story with growing interest. This is definitely actionable, she said after reviewing the documents. Your parents made verbal and written commitments regarding your wedding expenses. When they breached those commitments, you suffered financial losses. Their retaliation through employment interference could constitute harassment or intentional infliction of emotional distress. I don't want to destroy them. I just want them to stop. Sometimes legal action is the only language people like this understand. She quoted her fees. Expensive, but not impossible. Camden and I talked it over that night. This will make everything worse, I said. They'll never forgive me. What exactly are you hoping to be forgiven for? Good question. For getting married? For not letting them control my life? For refusing to be their backup plan after Tessa? The next morning, I called Janet back. File the suit. My parents' reaction was swift and nuclear. Mom called within hours of being served papers. How dare you? She screamed into the phone. You're suing your own parents? Have you completely lost your mind? I'm protecting myself from retaliation. Retaliation? We're trying to teach you about consequences. By sabotaging my career? By showing you what life looks like without family support. This isn't support, Mom. This is punishment. That evening, Tessa showed up at my apartment. I hadn't seen her in months, and she looked terrible. Thin, pale, dark circles under her eyes. Can I come in? I stepped aside, noting how she avoided eye contact. Mom told me about the lawsuit, she said, settling onto our couch. Of course she did. She's devastated. Dad's furious. They can't believe you're doing this. I sat across from her, studying my sister's face. Tess, did you know they called my boss? She shifted uncomfortably. They're worried about you. They tried to get me fired. Maybe you're overreacting. They canceled my wedding to pay your legal bills, then cut off my financial support when I got married anyway. How is that overreacting? Tessa flinched. I didn't ask them to pay for my divorce. You accepted their money. Of course I did. I had nowhere else to turn. And there it was. The difference between us. When Tessa hit rock bottom, she ran home to Mommy and Daddy. When I needed help, I found my own solutions. Did they send you here to talk me out of the lawsuit? She nodded reluctantly. What did they promise you if you convinced me? Nothing. This isn't about money. But her voice wavered and I knew she was lying. Tess, what did they promise you? She stared at her hands. Help with Vincent's legal troubles. My jaw dropped. Vincent? Your rebound boyfriend? What kind of legal troubles? DUI, hit and run, his license is suspended and he might go to jail. Jesus Christ. And they're funding this too? He's a good guy who made a mistake. He left the scene of an accident. What if someone was hurt? No one was seriously injured. Seriously injured? Someone was hurt? Tessa's face crumpled. An elderly woman broke her hip, but Vincent panicked. He's not used to drinking and… Get out! What? Get out of my apartment right now. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're defending a drunk driver who put an old woman in the hospital, and our parents are paying his legal bills, while simultaneously punishing me for getting married. It's not the same thing. You're right. Vincent committed actual crimes. I committed the crime of not asking permission to live my own life. After Tessa left, I called Janet. We need to expand the lawsuit, I told her. What happened? I explained about Vincent, the hit and run, my parents funding his defense while cutting me off. This demonstrates a clear pattern, Janet said. They're selectively supporting family members based on compliance with their wishes, not actual need or merit. It strengthens our case considerably. How so? It shows the financial support withdrawal wasn't about money. It was about punishment and control. That's key to proving harassment. The lawsuit moved slowly, but other things moved quickly. Mom started calling my friends, my coworkers, even Camden's family, spreading her version of events. According to her narrative, I was mentally unstable, had always been jealous of Tessa, and was now attacking my loving parents with frivolous legal action. Some people believed her. My college roommate stopped returning my calls. A few coworkers started treating me differently, but others saw through it, especially after Vincent's hit and run made the local news. When reporters mentioned he was being defended by a high-powered attorney funded by family members, the story started making sense to people who knew our family dynamics. Camden's parents were furious on my behalf. His mother, Patricia, had raised 4 children without ever using money as a weapon. "This is financial abuse," she told me over dinner one night. "I've seen it before. Parents who can't let go, who use resources to maintain control even after their children are adults." "But they did help me," I said. "The student loans, the apartment, with strings attached. Real help doesn't come with conditions and punishment threats." She was right. I started thinking about all the times their help had come with requirements. The apartment they'd helped me buy had to be in a specific neighborhood. The car they'd co-signed for had to be a practical sedan, not the convertible I wanted. Even my MBA program, they'd only pay for business school, not the master's in nonprofit management I'd originally considered. Every dollar had been a leash. 6 weeks into the lawsuit, something unexpected happened. Vincent's case went to trial, and the details that came out were worse than anyone had anticipated. He hadn't just fled the scene. He'd been texting while driving, hit the elderly woman in a crosswalk, then drove home and sobered up before calling the police 6 hours later to report his car stolen. The woman, Eleanor Kessler, had suffered not just a broken hip, but also a traumatic brain injury. She was 73 years old and would likely never live independently again. Vincent was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and somehow, this became my fault too. Mom called the night after sentencing, sobbing. "Are you happy now?" she demanded. "Vincent's going to prison because you refused to drop that lawsuit." How is Vincent's sentencing related to my lawsuit? The publicity. The reporters started digging into our family because of your legal action. If you hadn't filed suit, none of this would have come out. Mom, Vincent committed felony hit and run. That was going to come out regardless. He was going to take a plea deal. The lawyer said he'd get probation and community service. But then the media attention made the prosecutor grandstand. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you're upset that a drunk driver who put a woman in the hospital actually has to face consequences?" "I'm upset that my daughter destroyed her own family for revenge. Vincent destroyed Mrs. Kessler's life. He deserves prison. And Tessa deserves to lose the man she loves because you couldn't forgive us for postponing your wedding?" That's when it clicked. In Mom's mind, postponing my wedding was a minor inconvenience. Vincent's prison sentence was a major tragedy. The scale was completely backwards. "Mom, are you listening to yourself? You're more upset about Vincent going to jail than about the woman he nearly killed. Don't be dramatic. She's fine. She has brain damage. She's old anyway. She probably only had a few good years left." I hung up. Then I called Camden at work and told him to come home immediately. When he arrived, I was packing. "We're leaving," I said. "What happened?" I told him about the call, about Mom's reaction to Vincent's sentencing, about her dismissal of Mrs. Kessler's injuries. "These are not good people," I said finally. "I've been making excuses for them because they're my parents, but they're not good people." Camden helped me pack in silence. We loaded everything into a U-Haul that night. "Where are we going?" he asked. I'd been thinking about that. "Your cousin in Denver offered you that job last year. Is it still available?" He made a call. It was. 2 weeks later, we were living in a small apartment in Colorado, 1,500 miles away from my parents and their dysfunction. I found work as a financial analyst for a nonprofit that helped low-income families manage debt. Ironic, considering my own financial situation. The student loan payments were brutal. We ate ramen most nights and hadn't bought new clothes in months, but I was free. The lawsuit continued long distance. Janet kept me updated by email. My parents had hired expensive attorneys and were fighting every claim aggressively. They'd filed countersuits accusing me of defamation and emotional distress. The legal bills were mounting for everyone involved. 8 months after we moved to Denver, I got an unexpected call. "Is this Eleanor Morrison Chen?" The voice was elderly, slightly shaky. "It is. This is Eleanor Kessler." I nearly dropped the phone. The woman Vincent had hit. "Mrs. Kessler, how did you—" "I've been following your lawsuit. My granddaughter is a paralegal, and she's been helping me understand the legal aspects of Vincent's case. When she saw your name connected to his family, she did some research. I'm so sorry about what happened to you." "Thank you, dear. But I'm not calling for sympathy. I'm calling because I want to help." "Help with what?" "Your lawsuit. From what I understand, your parents funded Vincent's defense after he nearly killed me, but cut you off financially for getting married without their permission. Is that correct?" Yes, that's essentially correct." "Well, I think that's obscene, and I'd like to testify on your behalf if it would help your case." I was speechless. This woman who'd been catastrophically injured by my sister's boyfriend wanted to help me sue my parents. "Mrs. Kessler, you don't owe me anything." "No, but I owe society something. Your parents' actions tell a story about their values, and I think a judge should hear that story." I conferenced in Janet, who was thrilled. "This is exactly what we needed," Janet said after we'd hung up with Mrs. Kessler. "She's a compelling witness who can speak to the moral dimension of your parents' financial choices." "Will it help the case?" "Enormously. She humanizes the consequences of their priorities. They chose to support someone who nearly killed her while punishing you for getting married. The contrast couldn't be starker." The trial was scheduled for the following spring. As it approached, my parents' behavior became increasingly erratic. They hired a private investigator to follow Camden and me, looking for evidence of our lavish lifestyle that would contradict claims of financial hardship. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find. We were barely scraping by. They contacted Denver nonprofits to warn them about my history of mental instability and litigation. Most organizations ignored them, but a few expressed concerns. My reputation was being systematically attacked. The breaking point came when they showed up at my new workplace unannounced. I was in a meeting with clients when my colleague knocked on the conference room door. Eleanor, your parents are in the lobby. They say it's an emergency. My heart stopped. Had something happened to Tessa? Despite everything, she was still my sister. I excused myself and found them in the reception area, looking completely out of place in their expensive clothes among our nonprofit's modest furnishings. What's the emergency? I asked immediately. You are, Dad said. This has gone far enough. What are you doing here? We flew out to talk sense into you, Mom said, before this trial destroys everyone. How did you find my workplace? We hired professionals, Dad said proudly, as if stalking me was an accomplishment. You hired private investigators to follow me? We hired people to check on our mentally unstable daughter. My coworkers were staring. Clients in the waiting area looked uncomfortable. My boss appeared from her office, clearly concerned. Is everything all right, Eleanor? These are my parents, I said. They're leaving. We're not leaving until you agree to drop this ridiculous lawsuit, Mom announced loudly. My boss, a woman named Rita, who'd spent 20 years working with families in crisis, stepped forward. I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voices or take this conversation elsewhere. Dad turned to her with the full force of his condescension. This is a private family matter. We're trying to help our daughter before she makes the biggest mistake of her life. By ambushing her at work, Rita's tone was steel wrapped in silk. By making her face reality, Mom snapped. She's been living in fantasy land, thinking she can just cut off her family and face no consequences. What consequences? Rita asked, though I could tell she was genuinely curious about the answer. Financial independence, Dad said triumphantly, as if this proved his point. She wants to be independent? Fine. Let her see what that really means. Rita looked at him for a long moment. So, you're punishing your daughter for getting married? We're teaching her about responsibility. By hiring investigators to follow her? By coming to her workplace uninvited? By making her personal business public? My parents exchanged glances, clearly not expecting pushback from a stranger. This doesn't concern you, Mom said dismissively. It concerns me when people disrupt my workplace and upset my employees. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. We're not leaving without our daughter, Dad said firmly. Your daughter is a grown woman with her own job and her own life. She can leave whenever she wants, but you're leaving now. Rita stepped toward her desk and picked up the phone. Security? I need assistance in the main lobby. That's when Mom lost it completely. You can't throw us out. We're her parents. We know what's best for her. She's making terrible decisions and ruining everyone's lives. What terrible decisions? Rita asked. Getting married, having a job, living independently, suing her own family, destroying relationships. She's been manipulated by that husband of hers into thinking we're the enemy. Rita looked at me. Eleanor, do you want your parents here? No, I said quietly. I want them to leave. You heard her. Security arrived, two polite but firm guards who'd clearly dealt with this type of situation before. They escorted my parents toward the exit while Mom continued shouting, "This isn't over. We're not giving up on you. You're still our daughter no matter how much you hate us." After they were gone, Rita pulled me into her office. Are you okay? I was shaking. I'm so sorry. They've never done anything like this before. Don't apologize. What they just did was harassment, and frankly, it makes me want to testify in your lawsuit myself. You don't even know the details. I know enough. I've worked with hundreds of families over the years. What I just witnessed was emotional abuse and manipulation. Your parents came here specifically to humiliate you and damage your professional reputation. She was right. They hadn't come to reconcile or apologize. They'd come to make a scene at my workplace, probably hoping to get me fired. The trial starts next week, I said. Good. I hope you destroy them. That evening, Camden and I sat in our tiny apartment, talking through what had happened. They flew to Denver just to ambush you at work, he said. Do you see how far they'll go? I did see it. Finally, completely, I saw it. They'll never stop, I realized. Even if I dropped the lawsuit tomorrow, they'd find new ways to punish me until I came crawling back on their terms. So what do? We finished this. The trial began on a Tuesday morning in April. Janet had prepared me well, but seeing my parents in the courtroom still felt surreal. They sat at the defendant's table with their team of lawyers, looking dignified and wronged. Mrs. Kessler was our first witness. She walked slowly to the stand with a cane, still suffering effects from her brain injury. Her testimony was devastating. The defendants funded the legal defense of the man who nearly killed me, she said clearly. Not because he was innocent, but because he was dating their daughter. Meanwhile, they cut off financial support to their other daughter for the crime of getting married without permission. This tells me everything I need to know about their character and priorities. My parents' lawyer tried to paint her as a bitter old woman seeking revenge, but it backfired. Mrs. Kessler was articulate, sympathetic, and unshakable. Young man, she said to their attorney, I don't need revenge. Vincent Marsh is in prison where he belongs. I'm here because I believe parents who enable criminals while punishing law-abiding children need to face consequences. My testimony lasted 2 days. I walked through the history of financial control, the canceled wedding, the retaliation, the harassment. Janet had me read from the letter my parents' attorney had sent, detailing how my emotional instability would impact my professional life. Did you ever exhibit emotional instability at work? Janet asked. No. I've received excellent performance reviews throughout my career, so what was the purpose of this letter? To punish me for getting married without their permission by damaging my reputation and career prospects. Camden testified about the night I received the call canceling our wedding, about my mental state afterward, about our decision to elope. Was this an impulsive decision driven by emotional instability? Janet asked him. No, it was a practical solution to a broken promise. We'd been planning the courthouse ceremony as a backup option since engagement, in case something went wrong with the big wedding. Why? Camden looked directly at my parents. Because Eleanor's family has a history of unreliability when it comes to major commitments. Their lawyers tried to discredit our witnesses and paint me as a vindictive daughter seeking money I didn't deserve. But the evidence was overwhelming. Every financial threat was documented. Every harassment incident was recorded. The pattern was undeniable. During my father's testimony, Janet destroyed him. Mr. Morrison, you funded Vincent Marsh's legal defense after he fled the scene of an accident that put an elderly woman in the hospital. Is that correct? We supported our daughter during a difficult time. But you withdrew financial support from Eleanor when she got married? Is that correct? We reassessed our priorities. So your priority was supporting a drunk driver over your law-abiding daughter? That's not... Did Vincent Marsh commit felony hit and run? He made a mistake. Yes or no, Mr. Morrison? Did Vincent Marsh commit felony hit and run? Yes, but... And you paid for his legal defense? Yes. While simultaneously cutting off Eleanor's student loan support because she got married? Those are unrelated decisions. Are they? Because your letter to Eleanor specifically states that financial support was withdrawn due to her demonstrated poor judgment in getting married. Did you consider Vincent's judgment when you funded his defense? Dad couldn't answer that question without admitting his double standard. Mom's testimony was worse. She broke down crying multiple times, portraying herself as a devastated mother whose daughter had turned against the family. But under cross-examination, she admitted to calling my workplace to warn them about my mental state, to contacting Denver organizations to damage my reputation, and to hiring investigators to follow me. Mrs. Morrison, Janet said, you've testified that you love your daughter and want what's best for her. Is hiring people to stalk her an expression of love? We were worried about her. Is trying to get her fired from her job an expression of love? She needs to understand consequences. What consequences should Eleanor face for getting married? Mom couldn't answer that either. The trial lasted 5 days. During closing arguments, Janet laid out the case with surgical precision. This case is about control masquerading as love. The defendants used financial support as a weapon to maintain power over their adult daughter's life choices. When she refused to submit to their control by getting married without permission, they retaliated by withdrawing support, sabotaging her career, and launching a harassment campaign designed to force her back under their authority. They want you to believe this is about family values and financial responsibility, but their own actions reveal their true priorities. They eagerly funded the legal defense of a drunk driver who nearly killed an innocent woman, but they punished their daughter for the crime of getting married. They hired investigators to stalk their own child. They called her workplace to damage her reputation. They flew across the country to ambush her at her job. Eleanor Morrison Chen committed no crime. She made no mistake. She simply chose to live her own life as an independent adult. For this, her parents declared war on her future. They deserved to face consequences for that choice. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. They found in my favor on every count: financial damages for the wedding costs, lost trust fund inheritance, and career harm, $847,000. Punitive damages for harassment and emotional distress, $1.2 million. Total award, just over $2 million. My parents' faces were stone as the verdict was read. They'd gambled everything on teaching me a lesson about crossing them, and they'd lost spectacularly. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked if I felt vindicated. I feel free, I said. The money was life-changing, but not in the way people might expect. Camden and I didn't buy a mansion or luxury cars. We paid off our student loans, bought a modest house, and started a scholarship fund for students from dysfunctional families who needed education funding without strings attached. Mrs. Kessler became our first scholarship recipient's honorary grandmother. At 83, she'd enrolled in community college classes for fun and was making better grades than students 60 years younger. My parents appealed the verdict, of course. Their appeals failed. They tried to declare bankruptcy to avoid paying, but the court found they'd hidden assets specifically to avoid judgment. Dad ended up serving 6 months in jail for contempt. Tessa called me once during the appeals process. Are you happy now? She asked. Mom's on antidepressants and Dad's seeing a therapist. You destroyed them. They destroyed themselves, I replied. I just refuse to go down with them. They're still your parents. No, parents don't stalk their children. Parents don't try to ruin their children's careers. Parents don't fund criminals while punishing law-abiding kids. They stopped being my parents the moment they chose control over love. That was the last time we spoke. 5 years later, I got a call from a lawyer I didn't recognize. Mrs. Chen, I'm calling about your father's estate. My heart skipped. Is he dead? Yes, I'm sorry. He passed last week from a heart attack. I'm handling the probate. I felt nothing. No grief, no relief, just emptiness. Am I in the will? You are. He left you a letter. The letter arrived 3 days later. Dad's handwriting, familiar from childhood homework help and birthday cards. Eleanor, it began. If you're reading this, I'm dead and you've probably won. You got what you wanted. You broke our family apart and made us pay for it. I hope the money was worth losing your parents and sister forever. But I want you to know something. Everything we did because we loved you. We wanted to protect you from making mistakes that would hurt your future. We wanted to guide you towards success and happiness. You saw control where we saw care. Your mother never recovered from losing you. She died inside when that verdict came down. I died inside watching her fade away. We lost everything because you couldn't forgive us for postponing your wedding. I know you'll never forgive us for the lawsuit or the aftermath. But maybe someday you'll understand that parents make mistakes trying to do what's best for their children. Maybe when you have kids of your own, you'll see that love and control sometimes look the same from the outside. The house is yours now. Your mother wants to keep living there, but the deed is in your name. I suppose you'll kick her out like you kicked us out of your life. Just remember that revenge has a price too. I love you. I always loved you, even when I was too proud to admit I was wrong. The letter was signed, Your Father, Who Failed You. I sat in my Denver living room, holding the letter, trying to process this final manipulation. Even in death, he was trying to make me the villain. The house was mine, but Mom still lived there. And apparently I was expected to either let her stay, proving I'd forgiven them, or evict her, proving I was heartless. Camden read the letter over my shoulder. What do you want to do about the house? I thought about it for a long time. The next week, I flew back to my hometown for the first time since the trial. The house looked smaller than I remembered, shabbier. Mom answered the door looking decades older, thin and gray and brittle. So you've come to claim your prize, she said. I've come to sign over the deed. She blinked, confused. The house is yours, I said. I don't want it. I never wanted it. I don't understand. Dad thought this was about money and revenge. It was never about money and revenge. It was about freedom. I handed her the legal documents I'd had prepared. The house was being transferred to her name, free and clear. Why? She asked. Because holding on to anger is just another form of prison. I've been free for 5 years now. I want to stay that way. She started crying then, deep sobs that seemed to come from years of built-up grief. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. We were wrong about everything. For a moment, I almost hugged her, almost said it was okay, almost fell back into the pattern of managing her emotions and fixing her problems. Instead, I said, I forgive you, but I can't have a relationship with you. Some damage can't be repaired, only acknowledged. I left the house keys on her kitchen counter and walked away. On the plane home to Denver, I thought about Dad's letter and his final attempt to guilt me into believing I'd destroyed the family. But I hadn't destroyed anything. I'd simply refused to enable it. The difference was everything. Camden met me at the airport with flowers and our 2-year-old daughter, Grace. She ran to me on toddler legs, shouting, Mama, with pure joy. No conditions, no manipulation, no strings attached. Just love. As we drove home through the Colorado mountains, Grace babbling in her car seat about her day at daycare, I realized something important. I hadn't broken the cycle of dysfunction out of anger or revenge. I'd broken it out of love. Love for the children I hope to have someday. Love for the life I wanted to build with Camden. Love for the person I could become if I stopped trying to earn approval from people who would never freely give it. My parents had confused control with love for so long they couldn't tell the difference. But I could. And my daughter would grow up knowing the difference too. That night, as I tucked Grace into her crib, she reached up and patted my cheek with her tiny hand. Love you, Mama, she said sleepily. Love you too, babe, I whispered back. And I meant it without conditions, without expectation, without strings, the way love is supposed to be.